to the newest episode of Borderline Podcast Disorder. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you had a good week. I definitely had a good week. Oh, hello. Here is Sarma just trying to say hello to you folks as well. Don't go on the keyboard, but oh, she's making biscuits. Yeah, that's making biscuits. Oh. Anyway, so sorry. Borderline Podcast Disorderians. I got a bit distracted by Sarma, but yeah, I hope you had a good week. I following last week's I guess message or whatever I was talking about, however you want to call that. This week has been quite all right. You know, I worked a lot on. I think self acceptance was huge because I'm still not 100% back into running as much as I want to. Actually, today I did a run, and it was so slow. It was ridiculously bad. But you know what? I'll still take it. It's still a win. It's still on the road to recovery. Um, I just again I just take it for what it is, and I accepted it. Then any other things that happen, I'm saying I'm doing well, but I did have a. I would actually say I did my. I held myself pretty well with someone in public transport. I was called stupid, which you know what, fair enough. I don't necessarily question that. But yeah, it was something to do with pushing someone out of the way to get through the platform. They were blocking the platform though. So if you look, my argument was if you don't want to be pushed on the platform, then don't occupy all the space on the said platform. But besides of that, not much has happened, and I am going to keep this short and simple because you're getting two episodes this week. You're getting this, and then another on Thursday. Then we're going back to one episode a week, and that's mainly because from next weekend I'm taking a bit of a break. Don't worry, it's actually just to relax, and we got a couple of events that we have to attend, me and my partner, and so that's why I just thought it'd be worth taking the break now. um Anything else? No. Well, Safwan, today's guest, is I think is a wonderful comedian. I really enjoyed gigging with him. He's a very clever guy. I think, if I say so myself, I don't necessarily think that's something that can be held to. I don't give. I think that title coming from me can get people anywhere. But at least that's my belief. I freaking love Safwan. I love talking to him, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. So yeah, I'll catch you later.
Of your name.
The thing is, my name is like I actually am Levi,
Oh,
but
what? Okay.
comedy wise, I go by Levi.
Okay. Okay,
Just 'cause
fine.
I find it. I don't know. Like, 'cause I think when I first came to England and when I first started using Levi, everyone called me Levi.
So now you go by Levy and people still call you Levy.
And then but that's the thing. At the one point, I was just like, I'm just gonna give up, and I just went like Levi, fine. And then sometimes people correct me, and I don't know if it. I mean, it happens to me sometimes where people go, "Oh, what do you prefer, Levi?" And it's always strangers, and I really don't care. And they're like, "No, but it's your name. You gotta be proud. You got." I'm like, "Stop fighting my fight. Like, if I look, I I gave up.
Immigrant rights.
Yeah, it's like, hey, whatever makes you feel comfortable. I'm like, well, frankly, this conversation makes me very comfortable. So,
Yeah, at least you're not like, in America where there's like Irish Americans, but they don't even know how to pronounce their own name. So that's
well,
that's
like, yeah, I'm always surprised. Like, I remember when I used to, when I used to like be on like dating apps and stuff, and you have like someone with like an Irish name coming up, and I'm like, who is Cahoyme?
Quiver, yeah. I have a joke about that where I'm like, they can't pronounce our names, which are basically all brown names are phonetically spelled. Like we don't have random, pretty much. Like obviously, like,
Ah, yeah.
right. Whereas Irish names, it's like you have to learn a different alphabet. It's crazy. But the English people, they can always pronounce those names. They can never pronounce our names. You know, it's like.
Yeah, and then it's very much like as you read it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But I think most brand names, like, although people still, there's a comedy show, Fresh Off the Boat, like an American. You can see that there's a bit where the woman she's got a Chinese name, but then she eventually just switches to an English name because people just keep destroying her Chinese name. So yeah, it's a common story.
I usually actually I was trying to write something about it where I was like, oh, you know, the one thing that I love about being a foreigner is that, you know, you can literally start a different life. Like
yeah, that's true.
Move to a different country, and like my name in my ID is Live You Constantine. Like I have a bit where I'm like, you know, my partner who I'm, you know, probably getting married, we're going to get married with, you know, she probably doesn't know how to write my real name, and I think that is great for me because I still appreciate my privacy.
That's a typical male thing. Like you can be friends with someone for 9 years and then like not know if they've got any siblings, you know. Whereas my wife, she'll be friends with someone for like a month and know everything about them. Crazy.
I mean, look, I don't know if for you, but like even in comedy, like I have had some of the best conversation with some of the like most amazing people, and I still like talk to them, and I have no idea what.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas my wife, she'll meet someone in like Lewisham shopping center, and then like invite them for dinner. I'm like, are you crazy? You're telling people you met in the shopping center address? That's insane. I have to move house.
You just get loads of like what? You get like a load of like junk mail where he's like, "Hey, would you like some talk, bro?"
Yeah, and then you listen to like some strange lady trying to sell you some stuff. You're like, wait, is this even your friend? You know, crazy.
Have you? I don't know. Was it a thing in England with people like trying to sell encyclopedias?
No, was that a Romanian thing? No,
it was. You know, for a while.
We used to get people like door to door, like cigarettes and like illegal stuff. Like that used to happen a lot. But why encyclopedias? Is it everyone in Romania like super smart? Or?
I don't. Well, I don't know, but like you had because I remember when years later I watched Friends, and then you see that there is a guy in Friends who's like trying to sell. It's like I don't know. It was just like books, and then for some reason you'd have like encyclopedias, and then people would be like, "Hey, do you need the letter W?" You know. Well, you know, I remember sometimes you'd like buy the first 10 letters, and then they'll be like, "Hey, next month I'm gonna come with the next 10."
It's like Pokemon. Like people are trading.
Yeah.
I'll give you 2 V's for a W. Like
you know, I do own. I think back home, I own encyclopedias.
Really, like now it's like internet. You don't need.
I know, and that's the thing. I grew up like I had a computer since I was 5, but my parents, for some reason, they thought that books are gonna be in. I think if it was for if my parents would still be around, what's it called? The Blockbuster would have not gone down.
Once AI takes over, you're going to be the only one who's like survives, you know, because you're not even going to notice.
But yeah, I remember. I don't know. Did you own an encyclopedia?
Yeah, like when I was a child. Yeah, we had like everything.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember like when I first started. I started looking for like swear words.
But encyclopedia was like everything. It was like Wikipedia, right? Like you could learn about the ancient Egyptians and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Well, that's the thing. You go to like ancient, and then he goes like, "Oh, for Egyptians, see this," and then I remember at one point there was something that I looked for, and I didn't have the letter. No. And it was kind of like, oh, if you want to see this word, you have to go under this letter. And then I had to wait for like the postman to deliver the next letter.
But nowadays, I learn everything off. I don't know if you learn this, but Indian guys on YouTube, my God, they teach me everything.
Well, how? To what extent?
Like, if I want to learn anything on Excel, I had to make a website recently. So you just find the most depressed Indian guy on YouTube. Probably he's depressed because he's probably explained this like 500 times, right? And that's the best tutorial on YouTube. So when I'm trying to learn something on YouTube, I always find the most depressed Indian guy. That's it.
I usually I go sometimes for tutorials on the internet, and I do find that I feel like by the time someone started making a tutorial video is because they've been asked the same question so many times, because you usually get like, so now you're opening this. So now you're going to top right corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Top right corner, you scroll down. Do you see where it says edit? Yeah, you tap on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like no one read the manual that he made. But the annoying thing is sometimes there's no part 2. You know, it's like there's only part 1. So I'm like, no, I need part 2.
How far did you have to go into like making the like how was the website thing? Was it your website?
Yeah, so basically it's for my comedy show, Halal Fried Comics. So but I basically you can just ask ChatGPT like everything, and then you can put it in, and then if it does it wrong, you just ask ChatGPT, you've done it wrong, can you please correct your own work? And then it will just correct its own work. It's amazing. But otherwise, you just find someone else's code and you just put that in, and then you just tweak it a little bit. So it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, because I did when I had mine running, which I actually took down now, but because it wasn't giving me any value, to be fair.
Yeah.
But then I was doing it with like some paid services, where you use template. I mean, it's fine because it's not paid advertising. I use Squarespace.
Yeah.
I gave up because again, like it didn't make sense to pay the monthly fee, because I wasn't getting anything from it. I think for the website, especially, are you selling tickets to the event through the website?
Yeah, so the only reason I did it is that we use the ticket provider we use. They use Stripe for payments, and then Stripe, they've got a requirement where you have to have a website, you have to have a refunds policy and all that sort of stuff. And we use I use just a cheap one. But you're right, like now with Instagram and stuff, you don't really need a website, to be honest.
I mean, again, look, for payments and stuff, yeah, it makes sense. But I feel like I have nothing to sell myself.
Yeah, exactly. Like later, if you want to do merch and stuff, you have a website. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Like Instagram's
like
good.
Mugs with my face on.
Yeah, I feel like merch is a bit like what do people like now? People don't carry anything. That's the issue. Even if you go back like 10 years, like you might need a USB stick, but even now, like people don't need, like they don't even need
tote bags. I think tote bags are the future, man.
Yeah, but like tote bags, like I got a tote bag like from an event that I went to yesterday. But like, when else am I going to use? What's really good is freezer bags. You know, like the ones that Deliveroo drivers carry. The problem is, if I carry that anywhere, people think I'm a Deliveroo driver, right? Because I'm like perfectly fitting especially when I cycle to places. That's when people think I'm.
Imagine you just walking out from like a store and then someone going like, "Oh, is that my order?"
I've had it where people say to me when I went in to get like food, and they were like, "Excuse me, you have to use the other entrance." So I was like, "What is this?"
Oh my god! I'm sorry.
Like, what's this racist restaurant I'm joining? But they actually thought I was a delivery driver, which is also racist, but less racist, I suppose.
Oh
but it's fine.
Okay, and imagine I would imagine. Because you don't seem like a conflictual person. Actually, for that entrance, they're like, "Okay, what's your order number?" Like, I don't know.
I'll just be like, "Yeah, I'm here to collect and just take the food for free." That's my reward.
Oh my god, this is Well, no, well, that's the thing with. So obviously, you're doing your comedy night now.
Yeah, so I haven't been doing comedy that long. So I think I met you I saw you in a couple of places. So. But there was a Slap and Giggle. There was one like in North London somewhere. I saw you, but I think I saw you before then as well. I saw you at Blackout once as well.
Yes, but then we met before that though.
Yeah,
we already chatted. We were chatting about some stuff.
That's when you told me that you stopped drinking a long time ago or something like this. So 1 year. How long have you stopped drinking for?
Almost a year. I mean, 1.5 years.
That's pretty cool. How was it? Well, you stopped drinking after you arrived in the UK, which is crazy.
Well, I arrived in the UK 10 years ago.
What?
So,
Yeah, that makes sense because you said you didn't really speak English when you first came. Yeah.
Well, now I'm so fluent.
So you came here when you were okay. I know this is about me, but you came here when you were like a very young, then like 16 or something
17.
like that. 17. That's really young to come here. So you're like in the middle of school and stuff. You came here.
Yeah, so I got here when I was 17 because my parents went through separation, I think since I was 13 or 14. But then in 17 it kind of it happened.
Yeah.
And then my dad have done some things that made him lose everything that he owned.
Yeah.
So then basically I kind of had to either, I think, yeah, because I either had to be like, because I was adopted.
So I didn't know that.
It was this thing where I would have had to technically be like reinstitutionalized.
Also, like go back into like care home, not
Yeah.
care home, but like
Well, yeah, like I don't know what's the name for the yeah. So basically, that's the thing. It was complicated, but then I thought, like while it was quite wild, man, because at the time when obviously you're 17, you're not allowed to travel.
Yeah.
So then I've managed to convince my dad to sign for me to leave the country once.
Wow.
Yeah, and then with that piece of paper, I came to England, and then.
And that was just you and your mum, or
no, just me.
Oh wow! That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I came here. I came with some people that I don't stay in touch with now because they were horrible to me. But then I came in here. I worked in a construction site for like cash in hand jobs for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
Then I worked in a warehouse where I remember I worked in a warehouse for a bit. I was I wouldn't say I was on the merge of being homeless.
Yeah, and were you relying a lot on like the Romanian community and stuff? Or?
No, well, that's the thing. I didn't because I not for the beginning though. I think at the beginning so basically I worked I worked for like this guy from Pakistan who had like a building site, and then from
already sounds dodgy, by the way.
What? Look, the thing is, I mean, look, I was working hard, man. I was doing 10-hour shift for fucking £30 a day.
Oh my god!
It was hard. It was a ball ache, and then I managed to get a warehouse job where I was getting paid £35 for 10 hours, and I was like, "This is the dream."
I can see why you do stand-up comedy then. Like,
yeah, it's like, oh, this is a £15 fee for a £50 train ticket. I'm like, oh my god, this sounds like I might make a break even.
No, yeah, it's weird, like because I think a lot of I think 2004. That's when like a lot of the Eastern European countries joined the EU, so that's when a lot of people came. But so similar to like when my parents came, like my parents came from Bangladesh, I think like 1980s and like this. But they were similar. They were relying a lot on doing similar to what you do, but they were relying heavily on the Bangladeshi community. So, but yeah, it's weird. Like now, because immigration's a lot like stricter. Now it's only highly skilled migrants, unless you can like sneak your way in. So now, like all of that's gone. Like there won't be those sorts of stories anymore. Basically,
I know, and it's quite like look, it's wild. And the thing is, I don't know about like my experiences with the Romanian community before more like recently, I got screwed over so much that I think I went to a point where because I was living with like some Romanian folks. I was working with and for some Romanian folks, and it wasn't good. I felt terrible. I used to share, like, this is the thing, is I have a joke about like sharing a 3-bedroom terrace house. I used to share a bedroom with another, like a guy who was also married. So at some point his wife came to visit, and we were all three of us were sleeping in the same room. Oh God, yeah, it was so terrible, and again, yeah, so that it put me off. Like I do remember for a few years, I was probably one of the biggest anti-Romanian people because because a few years after I was like, oh, I hate anything to do like I wouldn't. I remember I wouldn't if I met like Romanians at work, I would like try to
Right.
like not engage with them and like not I sound like engage with them as if like I'm like in a zoo, but no, I would like try to like keep myself to myself and like not get too excited because I was like I'm gonna get in one way or another I'm gonna get screwed over
Yeah.
somehow.
And that's changed. Has that changed over
Yeah,
time?
yeah, by far. Like now, I feel like I've never been. I know
More
never. Yeah,
pro.
no pro, but I look. The thing is, I am proud because the thing is, the place where I grew up was nothing like the people that I met here. If that makes sense. You
Oh,
know,
so you're from a nice part of Romania, or like
well, no. The thing is, we had a lot. Like we have a lot of problems. I think it's still like one of the most. It's a very what's the word? Dangerous
deprived or
part of Romania to be in.
okay.
But I feel like the morality of it is pretty. It's pretty different from here because, like like say our I don't know, like the roadman equivalent of what we've got.
Yeah.
They never you kind of like you never pick on kids and the elderly. You never pick on like a woman that like alone on the street. You never pick on you usually like if you want to fight, you usually fight with people that are either on your level or above you. So then that's how you gain the said authority. You don't go for you don't pick on someone that's underneath you.
Yeah.
So
So it's
again,
like a mafia. Are these mafia? Or they're just like
yeah.
Okay. But it's the same in the UK because like we've got roadman, roadman, and when I take my baby out for a walk, I never get harassed. Like that, I use my baby as protection. Like they never go, "Hey, bruv, what phone you got?" They just leave me alone. So it's great.
This is because wait. You said you live in Levenshulme.
Lewisham,
Sorry,
yeah,
Levenshulme, Manchester. I'm so sorry, Levenshulme.
yeah.
Lewisham. What? So you do like is it like a king, like a Lion King sort of thing, where you just like pick up the baby and you're like, here is the
I
baby.
use that as, the baby is like in Mario when you've got the star. That's
Yeah.
like there's fights going on. I'm just with my pushchair, just going straight through everything.
Like, hey, lads, I don't want problems.
They're surprised, and yeah, it's weird. Yeah, but I think they're like they don't want to get involved when there's a baby. But yeah, it's interesting now. You're going to live here forever then.
I don't know. We are maybe.
Yeah. I think it's not good to be like forever because you never know like what happens, and
yeah.
I think it should be like should go shopping. Like if there's a better place, you just go. Whatever.
Well, yeah, that's the kind of like I think in a few years we are going to reassess because I still for comedy purposes I would love to try and living on like USA for a bit and things like that. Like I would love to explore it, but then I think the way me and my partner kind of talked about it is that if we get to have children, we'd probably most likely settle down we'll settle at least for like while the kids are in school. We'll probably be in UK.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for obvious reasons, you don't want to be sending them to school in America, right? But it's a bit dark, I don't know. But I think if I was an adult, like I am an adult, but I think America's like nice, like because you're like, yeah, there's shootings and stuff, but like probably it's not going to happen, right? Like let's be real, like that's like.
I mean, you know what? I feel like everywhere you go, you kind of have some sort of like crazy stuff going on. Like I don't know, like look like the stabbing in London. Like again, it's not surprising because it's such a huge city, like or like petty theft and stuff like this. Obviously, in America, it's a different, breed of craziness, I guess.
Yeah,
but
no, but I have you ever been to America?
No.
Yeah, so I went to New York when I was like similar to the age that you came to the UK. So when I was like 16, 17, I think my cousins lived there. And then we go onto the subway, like so underground, right? And I go there. Some guy starts selling M&Ms out of a box, right? And it's like $1 for M&Ms. And then he starts arguing with everyone who doesn't buy it. Okay, and then and then he gets off, and then another guy like dressed as a cowboy comes and starts playing the guitar. So this happens in the subway in the UK, right? People like do busking, but he played, and then he got really mad at everyone who didn't donate. He was like, "You listened to me play for 3 minutes and you didn't donate." And then I was like, "What the hell is this? This is crazy." And then this was when Harry Potter came out, so Harry Potter book. So, we queued up because my cousin's a big fan of Harry Potter, and then we queued up outside the bookstore, and these like guys like Jersey Shore types, they pulled over and we thought we were gonna get shot, and they're like, "Where'd you get that book? Where'd you get that book?" And then my cousin was like a 5+, and then we ran all the way home because we had the Harry Potter book like not in a bag. So I was like, this place is crazy. Like it's midnight and people are going to rob you for your book. It's but New York's nice. But you can buy like on the plus side, you can buy a slice of pizza. That's like you don't have to buy a full pizza. That's pretty amazing. You get unlimited refills if you go to like McDonald's or whatever. I remember I was arguing with the guy. I was like, "Why are you giving me an empty cup? Where's the drink?" It's like this. He was like, "You gotta go fill it over there." And it's free refills. I was like, "Wow, this is crazy."
Look, I'm really sorry, but I have to point out before we move on that I love your tolerance levels. Where you're like, in one hand you can get killed, get pizza by the slice. Which
yeah, well, I think America's really good for like cheap food, and I don't like you have to tip. So I'm always like, okay, how much should I tip you, and what is and also the prices. That's another thing. Like you have the change ready, and then you go to the till, and they add on like taxes at the till. So that the amount you pay isn't the same as this is a minor thing though, but whatever.
No, I agree. I think actually, you know what? I'm not. I mean, this is the thing. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of traveling, if I'm being honest. Like, and that's like every time I think like, look, I have to like change currency. I hate it. It gives me a headache. And then also when I think, because every time I speak with people about like going to the States, and like I'm trying even now, I've spoke with some people, and hopefully I might be able to go and do some shows in Florida.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty cool.
But the thing is that when they are like, oh yeah, and look, these are the prices. It's pretty cool. Like there is no tax there, but then it's like you have to keep the receipts if you go to a different state. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, but it's like when I went to Bali for a while, and it was really nice. But then like everything's cash, and I'm like, can you just accept cards? Like I can't bother with it because then you have to carry all these cash, you have to carry coins, and then sometimes a lot of the places are quite small, so they're like, this banknote is too big for us. Do you have anything smaller? Can you give us a 50 and then we'll give you a 20? I'm like, oh my god! But that's one good thing about living somewhere where it's like mostly card payments, but obviously that's a minor. I feel like that's minor complaint.
Oh, you should go to Romania. I think in Romania they love you when you pay in cash.
Yeah,
yeah, it's. I feel like we are in an extent to like everyone's like a takeaway in UK, where everyone's like, hey, if you look, we don't say pay in cash, but we would appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, traveling. I think I want to definitely do more. It's obviously I've got a baby now, but it's slowly get back into it.
What is it like to be? Because I basically in a previous episode I spoke with one of my closest friends. He's a climber, and he had like a baby, and now we were talking about like him, being a dad while trying to be a climber, doing a day job, and all this. What is it like for you?
So I was working, and then I lost my job. So I had my baby in May last year. I lost my job in like September, October. And then that's when I started doing stand-up comedy. So I started doing stand-up comedy like maybe a month later. So I started writing stuff. So basically my routine now is I look after the baby during the day and just do other random stuff, and also write jokes if I can. And then in the evening I just do stand-up comedy, and it works pretty well actually. The downside is I don't really see my wife that much. Which is kind of down. To be honest, it's not that bad like sometimes, but Other times you're like, I haven't really seen her in like a week or whatever, right? so we tag team. So sometimes it's very close. So sometimes I even meet her at the train station. Like I will take the baby to the in the pushchair to the train station, and then we swap. Like and then she does the baby stuff until he goes to sleep at like 7:38. But yeah, to be honest, like I think people understate how much work it is. So when people have a baby, they're like, yeah, but actually, like, it's a lot more than you think. Especially at the beginning. Like right now, he's 1 year old, so it's a bit less. But especially when they're newborn, first 6 months, I'd say every like hour, there's something to do: feed, nappy, change, and that's, by the way, every hour. I mean, like even in the night. So it's it's pretty crazy.
I remember like talking with Dave about it, and he was saying how he used to do like night shifts at work because he works remote, but he would like do the night shifts just so that basically he would look after the baby, and like because he would be up anyway, basically.
Yeah,
and then and I feel like the work that goes into it, it's I agree with you. It's harder than you think, and like from the outside, it's kind of like easy or whatever, but then
I think it's like I'm not sure how it was with your family, but I think previous generations, they tend to live in bigger communities, right? So they've got aunts, uncles, grandparents, everyone's like kind of around, so the workload is distributed more now. Like most people living in London, living in the UK, like it's just you and your partner, and pretty much that's it. Everyone else is just like you have to pay someone to come in, or you might have to take quite a long journey to go to one of your parents' house or something. It's I feel like I think it's a lot to like just have on like two people, especially now we have to pay. And also one thing people forget is before, up until recently, most women didn't work. So it's a bit crazy. Like now we've got women working, which is really good. But where's all this time? Like, no one gave us an extra 40. Like, like we got scammed with that, right? They should have been like, yeah, great, you can work, but no extra time to have a. Like, wait, what? Like, I feel like eventually someone's gonna discover that was a bit of a scam.
Well, we're going back to having one. What do you call it? One
breadwinner. But and also, what you would have thought is, okay, there's two people earning money, so now we're going to be rich. But actually, what that just means is the prices of everything have doubled because everyone's like, so now houses are double, everything's double because there's like nothing. So they should do it like now. We should have like where we all like say, let's all work half the hours, all of us in the whole country. We all work half the hours. Prices will come down because no one will be able to afford. Okay, maybe that. I'm not an economist, but I'm sure that's how it.
That's how it works. Yeah.
That's how we get inflation down, right?
Yeah, you cut the workload in half, and then the prices are going down.
No, but like 800,000, we can't afford that.
No, but I think it's ridiculous when you look at like I agree. Like at some point, we as a society we kind of lost the plot. I think, and it's like
I mean, no one has children anymore, really. Like that's probably why.
No, I'm a huge. I can't wait for. I feel like there needs to be more generations of this.
Yeah, because if you don't, then you're the first since the I don't know, whatever you believe in, the bacteria or whatever. You're the first that doesn't have offspring.
Wait, what do you mean bacteria?
Like the first and like, so if you keep going all the way back up your family tree, all the way back until like single cell organism or all.
Well, the thing is, my sister has babies, like has not rabies, babies. I mean, they're not babies now; they're old.
So your family tree is staying. It continues.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like the family would be like the family tree would. I mean, but I do want children though. I do feel like because I think you get sometimes people are like, oh, why would you bring someone in this like fucked up world? And I'm like, well, you know what? I was brought in it. I didn't
get a choice, so they shouldn't get a choice either.
Yeah, I was like, well, look, I'm very comfortable to spend 3 hours on a train journey for an open spot.
Also, you could be like Michael Jackson's dad. You're like, you have lots of kids and then you train them to become like a superstar.
Well, this was a very Romanian like family thing where you're kind of like, your path in life is being set already. Because actually, funny enough, I was talking with a friend earlier today. We met for coffee, and I was saying that I sometimes reflect on like in my family, you have three ways to like live your life. You are either serving, either police or military, either a dentist,
Well,
or
that's its own category.
well, that's the thing. I have like either like ex-military or police forces, dentists or accountants.
Oh, really? That's it. Yeah.
Those are the three jobs in my family.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
That's
then
crazy.
you kind of you think about, I'm like, oh, and I work part-time in the shop, and then I do stand-up comedy. I'm like, I broke the matrix, but I don't know, actually I forgot what I was
That's very different. Yeah.
But
So
go on.
are still any of your family in Romania? What do they think of you doing comedy?
Yeah, well, my sister, she's kind of like, you just do whatever. But yeah, but like basically, because the path, like when I was a kid, everything that you hear about was, oh my God, I can't wait for you to like grow up and like put a uniform on, or then you'll be like, oh yeah, you're gonna go do accounting, or then you're gonna be a dentist or whatever. And I hate like I can't stand dentists. I'm so petrified of dentists. And yeah, no, my family is quite okay, I think. I mean, yeah, luckily I don't have to worry about like what my parents think, because of obvious reasons. Yeah, they're not around anymore, but I'm sure they would have been on board. I think so. I at least my mom, because my mom was very much like when she got older, and I think she was always like, look, do whatever makes you happy. Like, I think even about moving countries, she was never, I feel like so many times you have parents, or I see from my friends, then the parents are always like, oh, come back, come home, do this, settle down next to me. My mom was actually the opposite. My mom was very much like, do whatever feels right for you. It's your life. You gotta, because I think she had so many regrets that she wanted to make sure that I wouldn't have any. So she was
that
like,
do you think that was always the case for your mom, or was it because of your separation, because of her separation with your dad?
I think it was always the case, because like she's done, I think she was one of these people who kind of like followed her intuition rather than her feelings. And then
they're different, intuition. Okay, maybe. Yeah.
No, sorry. Okay, she followed her mind.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Rather than her feelings. Like she kind of went like, oh, I'm gonna go and study economy, although I hate accounting, because that's gonna get me a job. I'm gonna marry this person because that's gonna get me this and this. I'm going to, I'm gonna, like, basically loads of people, loads of my family left Romania in the I think 70s or 80s, and then my mom chose not to.
Okay.
My mom was like, it's a bit like too difficult. I don't really want to do it. And then in the 90s, she had the opportunity to leave again. But then that's when my dad came around. And then because of him, she was like, no, I'm just going to stay at home. And then years later, she was like, I wish I left when everyone did.
Yeah, but then again, like, I think we all get regrets, but then you never know what you were like, all of the facts at the time, like it's different. Like at the time, it's like if you were transported back then, suddenly it might feel a bit different. You're like, oh, actually, this is I don't know, but yeah.
So
you never know.
How did you? Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to ask, why did you go in? Like, what's your interest in mental health? Like, that's.
What's my interest? Well, I've been certified as a crazy person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I live with well, no, because but I do live. I live with a personality disorder. I do have borderline personality disorder.
Yeah,
got diagnosed last year, and I think because of like how my comedy is, I can't represent, like I can't do these things are aligned with like my values, which is like, trying to allow people to like open up about themselves, or like to see that there is so much. Because I think, for example, to me, before I got diagnosed with BPD, I always thought that like what's happening in my head is just in my head. Nobody can understand it. And then I remember the day when I went through, because I was doing like, I went to a hospital for 6 months, 1 day a week for therapy. And I remember the first time I went in the class for the therapy thing, I was shocked, to see like another 10 people, like 9 people who were either diagnosed with what I've got, or were on the spectrum. And I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. You're not the only one. And also, because we were in a mental health hospital, I got to meet loads of people who were actually like inpatient, but yet still like working very like, again, huge, like big jobs and stuff like this,
So
working
like functional.
while being like in hospital supervised by someone because they were a risk to themselves, or things like this. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. But then, because I don't necessarily feel like through comedy I can address those things and I can show what I believe in, or like what I stand for, I thought that this is the platform. This is where I want to open up, and I want people to I think my goal out of this is to make everyone who's affected either by the disorder or because has someone in the family who lives with it, and then they are affected by it, because I know how hard it is to maintain relationships. Like every single second, not second, but like almost every day, at least once a day, probably, I feel like my partner's going to leave me tomorrow. And I feel like everything. I was running, actually. I went on a long run today, and I had to like stop someone from bumping into me. But then, because of the way I kind of like, I put my hand around, and I kind of like had to push them. I was like, oh my God, now the police is going to come to my house.
Oh God, yeah.
So I have to live with all these things all the time. And I'm like, I want people to see that there is still, you can still live with it, although it's hard and it's annoying.
And what made you think I have to go to get help about this? Something extra bad happened, or it's just building up over time?
It's wild. It's really so basically, when I think I struggled with like mental health, or like I struggled with like suicidal ideation since I was 14. But I've never talked.
That's the same time your parents were separate, or
yeah?
You think that's linked, or no?
Well, I don't necessarily, because again, it's like one of those things. It's like nature and nurture, and it kind of like combines, and then you're like you are the outcome of the two together. I think, so it's not to say just that, but yeah, it was. I think because it was like an identity thing where I was like, who am I? What's happening? And also the time was like, do I pick and also that's the thing. I got stuck in their divorce because like my mom was upset with me for not telling her everything that I knew about my dad. But then my dad was upset with me thinking that I told my mom everything that I knew.
Yeah, but that's not your fault. That's like your parents not communicating properly, and then your dad's put it on you. Well, actually, it's not your. It doesn't sound like it's your mom's fault. Actually, it's your dad not telling your mom stuff, telling you.
Well, no, he didn't tell me. I've seen it. Like he
was okay, fine.
Very bad liar. I mean, no, he wasn't a bad liar, but I think he was kind of like I knew the ladies that he was like fooling around with. I knew all these things. It was easy for me to see, And but then that's the thing. I lost kind of like both of their trust, and I was like, oh, what the fuck is happening? Like I was like, what's the point? And then I found out also, I think a couple of years later. Oh yeah, at 13, I had to go through the adoption process again.
Did you always know that you were adopted? Like,
yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I think so. I think at least it's like since I was 7 or 8, like since I kind of like cared about it. Because I think when I went to school, it was weird that I had a double barrel last name.
Okay.
And I was like, why do I have a double barrel last name? And then, because for a while I actually had my last name was different from my parents' last name. And I was like, why is my last name different? And then that's when they told me. But yeah, so because of that, again, like, but look, I didn't talk about it. Like, that's the thing. I never told my family. Like, my family didn't know what was going on with me when I was, like, when I moved to England. My family didn't know so much stuff. Like, even my flatmate. Like, when I told my flatmate, years later, that I struggled with like everything that was going on in my head, he was surprised. He was like, "What?" It was a shock to everyone. And then yeah, I think, and then it kind of like gotten worse. And I think when I moved to London, because I was now on my own again, it kind of like amplified. But then also by that time, I already tried different types of medication. I tried different types of therapy, and it still didn't work. While then I've seen a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist was like, "Oh, okay, well, let's do those tests, whatever." And first they thought I had bipolar disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, "Oh, actually, it doesn't look like bipolar. It looks like this thing." And that's how I got my degree.
As your diagnosis. So
Yeah.
I was thinking, yeah, it sounds. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it sounds about right. Like it's a mix of, because I'd imagine there could be another person who went through that and they didn't. But like it's like a trigger, right? Like a stress trigger. All of that stuff is.
It's weird, because sometimes I don't know what it's like for you, but I imagine, when you're going, especially like now, when you're like, I think everyone has things that are happening in their lives to a certain extent, and obviously everyone feels things in a different way.
Mhm.
It's just, I think, to me, my problem, and like the thing is with borderline, is that the extremes, it's very hard to reach the extremes.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard to go from like minus, because even from 0 to 100 is from minus 100, where like, because I even like I remember, for example, when my I think, yeah, when my mom, for example, my mom passed away, I've only realized that she passed away like on her funeral day, like 3 days later. Because as soon as that happened, I was just like, all right, cool, feel nothing for 3 days. And then as they were, I remember as like people were like taking her, like the oh my god, what's the word?
Like coffin or
Coffin, yeah. When people were like taking the coffin out, and no, actually, wait, it was after like we were at the cemetery. She was being like put like under in the ground, and then that evening, I was like, I think I got home, and then we had some. I don't know, like what's it like. I actually have no idea what's it like in here, to be honest, like funeral wise. Although I've been to one, but anyway, yeah. So basically, we had family over, but like close friend, like close family, and they were like all having a meal and stuff. And then I just went to my bedroom, and I think there was meant to be a Formula One race the next day, and they were the qualifying. And I just went and watched the qualifying. And I think after I finished watching the qualifying, I was like, "Oh shit!"
yeah.
And then I went for like 3 months of just pure, just like sadness. And now you see, it's again. Look, I find it helps me with my own self-awareness, because then I'm like, oh, hang on a minute, I need time to process stuff, rather than, I think I had this thing where I was like, oh, I'm so angry, or like sometimes I try to like suppress the emotions because I don't want to show my actual. And then when I get home, I'd like beat myself over it. Well, now, look, I find in conversations where I say I have like a tough discussion with someone, I can I feel comfortable taking time back to figure out what I want to do or what I want to say, or whether that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think one thing that's also weird that I find, obviously I haven't had the same experience you had with your parents, but it's like I think you feel like you're not showing enough emotion. Like, yeah, and then you're like, oh, do I have to fake it or whatever? So I think that, especially for guys, I think that's a bit of a weird thing, because it doesn't work like in the films, right? It's not like immediate. So that's that. I'm not sure if you had that, but yeah, I get that a lot.
What was it like? Yeah, well, that's the thing. Were it like, were your parents like you growing up? Were you in like a, I guess like a what's the word? Emotive family? Like, were you like showing your
No, not really. So I'm Bangladeshi, and we don't really compared to. People say that English people they're not very. I'm not sure how you find it as an outsider as a Romanian, but I say compared to Westerners, we're not very emotive. Like I was like I'm writing a joke at the moment, which is like our parents never tell us that they love us, right? And we never tell them. Do you guys do that in Romania?
Yeah,
You
like
guys all the time.
the first time my mom told me that she loved me was when I was 17, when I left home.
Oh, really?
That was also the first time when she hugged me.
Yeah, that's quite late. But I think English people they do that all the time. We don't. I think also it's not just Bangla. I think in Asian cultures they usually it doesn't happen either way. If it does, it means you're probably very westernized. But like recently, yesterday, I was thinking of a joke about this, where it's like an English guy is asking me, "This is shocking. How do you know that your parents love you if they never tell you?" And I'm like, Matthew, do you know that you're ugly? And then has anyone ever told you that you're ugly? You know, but I think it's a different. But it's like I think also they show it in different ways. So like they'll do things like force feed you. They'll
Yeah, especially when you're 19, it's a bit.
They'll bring like even now they bring like food every time they come, like enough to stock the fridge. You know, like that sort of stuff is. And you'll notice English families they don't do that as much, but they tell each other more, so it's different.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because I even think about, look, when I go back home, I always get like, oh my god, we're gonna make all this food that you love, you know. We're like, that's the thing, when you go, when I like, there are different, but also I think even in the regards of like, if you ever need anything, like any help, for example, with my family, they would always be like, yeah, okay, cool, fine, done. Like I remember it was quite weird, but like when I went, because I went back to finish my studies, and I needed to, I think I had to pay like the last fee, and I don't know what happened, but I was like, oh, can I just called like my aunt, who I haven't spoken to in probably like 5 or 6 years, and I was like, hey, can I just borrow like 200 like pounds real quick to pay this, and I'll pay back when I get to Romania. And then she was like, yeah, cool.
I think that ability to rely on them, like no matter what, is, and I think that's more valuable. You know, I prefer that over like a family tells me they love me all the time, but I can't. You know, I don't have that reliability.
I think there is a fine balance has to be struck. You know, where I get to the point where I'm like, I see sometimes why it was hard for me to, you know, like it was like the way I grew up, or like the way I see things now. I see why I would have liked at times for like my, you know, like my parents to give me like a little like attaboy, you know, or like to give me like a bit of like a hug or something.
Yeah.
But then also I agree. I think it has to be backed by more than words, for sure. Like I feel like ultimately you see the love in, like, look, I remember even growing up, and like I annoyed my parents so much, and they stuck, you know, for me. Although again, in other ways, it was very annoying, because again, whenever they would fight, they would then think that they can't trust me either, like either of them. But then I remember still, like, my dad was going through like this again. Like me and my parents were like, my mom was moving out now, and basically there was a teacher that tried to basically bribe me to, basically she was like, oh, if you don't pay me like £300, 300 euros, I'm not gonna pass, like I'm not gonna give you the grades to get to the class. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And I called my dad. Bear in mind, my dad was like furious with me. Like my dad was like, I don't want to talk to you again. And then I told him, I was like, but again, not because of that, it was because of like what was happening at home. And then I was like, hey, Dad, look, I have a problem. Like, this teacher is, you know, trying to, like, bribe me. Or was asking me to bribe, to give her, I don't know what's the English way to
extort.
Say it.
I think it's extort.
Yeah, she's trying to, like, extort me. And my dad was like, okay, I'll be there in 30 minutes. And then he came to school. Yeah, and this is the thing, because, like, because we didn't have the same last name, my dad was a little bit of, like, a big shot in the area.
Gangster, yeah.
But people didn't know, because, again, our names were different.
Yeah.
But then I don't know what happened. but I just know that my dad went into this like teacher's office.
Came out covered in blood.
No. Because I remember basically he came in front of the school and I jumped in the car and I was like, "Oh, can I have the money?" And he's like, "No, don't worry about it. Let me sort it out." And then he walks out, goes in the office. Like it was crazy, man. He left the car with like the not even with like the lights on. He just left the car in front of the school, walked out of the car. He didn't even care to lock it. Walks into the teacher's office. 5 minutes later, he just walks out, and I was like, "So?" And he's like, "It's all done."
Wow, gangster.
And then Wei was crazy. Like I remember looking because I was like, "Oh man, I need to check my grades." And I remember seeing my head teacher and going like, "Hey, can I please see my grades?" And I was like, "Oh, not even pass, but like," which although look, I deserve to pass because the test that she said that she's gonna fail me. Me and 3 other people did the exact same piece of paper because we all like basically did it together, and everyone's got an 8 because in Romania you have from 1 to 10. Okay. Everyone got an 8, and then she gave me a 3 for the exact same. So it's clearly like again that's the thing I deserve that the grade, but actually I got a 10. So
wow. Yeah. That's how things work in Romania.
Well, again, that's how it worked at the time. Like I feel like now when I see my sister, she's growing up. My sister is like, it's very like, it's about like who you know sort of thing, you know. But it's a bit different. Like I feel like my sister, she's managed to keep herself out of this like whole business. And
she's still in Romania.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any siblings?
I've got 2 sisters. I've got an older and a younger. Do you just have one? Or
yeah, just one.
Yeah, so I've got an older and a younger, which is, but we've got quite a big gap. So my older sister's, she was born in 1984, so she's going to be 40 this year.
Wait, so what was she born before your parents came to UK?
Just after.
Oh,
so she's 40, and then going to be 40 in October, and then my younger sister's, she was born in 2000, so she's 24.
24, nice.
Yeah. And what's the age gap with you?
So bear in mind I was adopted. It's 20. No wait. So I'm 27, and it's about 21 years.
Oh, she's what? She's 6.
No,
she's older. Sorry. She's
older. She's 40 something. I think she's 76. She was born.
Oh, yeah, she's a lot older. She's like in coming up to 50, is it? I think.
Yeah. So she's 76 because I'm 97.
And is she adopted as well or not?
Or she's 78? No, she's my mom's biological daughter.
Oh, okay. So pretty okay. That's and that's a massive age gap. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like we didn't actually get to live together because by the time I got adopted, and by the time I kind of like when I got adopted, she was already living with her then partner, and then we got married. And
it must feel like different to most sibling relationships.
I think it was weird growing up, but no, actually, but again, look, it was very reliable, you know, because like I remember once I threw myself a birthday party without telling my parents about it, and I did this thing where because I think it was my 14th birthday. And I invited everyone. No, it was my 13th birthday. It was my the 13th birthday, and I thought, I'm just gonna do like a big birthday party, and then obviously because it was a 13-year-old organizing, I didn't put any limits on the bar tab or like the restaurant tab.
Oh no!
Yeah, so people were like ordering like 3-4 drinks, pizzas and desserts and whatever, and then when the bill came, I was short by maybe like, I don't know, 50 or 60 quid.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah.
Well, it's not too bad, but again, in Romania, 50 or 60 quid, I think at the time was enough.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
and then my dad, I couldn't reach my dad. So then I called my sister, and then my sister came and paid the bill at the restaurant. Okay. And this is the craziest thing is she's never told anyone.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
really good.
but you see, but then in the other hands, we had some big fights. I think again, like around the time when my parents broke up, I think she kind of, because obviously like she was my mother's daughter, so she was on mom's side. Understandably though, because like my dad, again, my dad was very. I feel like my dad was the kind of guy who you'd either love him or hate him. You know, he was very alienating to people. So he sadly alienated himself from my sister, and yeah, and then that's the thing. It was quite at the time, and because I was kind of like, I still love the guy, you know, like what's going on. It was yeah, it was quite weird. But anyway, yes, that's the thing. So okay, because you got to. How did you get into doing comedy though?
Yeah, so basically, after I lost my job, I thought it's going to be a while before I get a new one, because I had like a long period of like gardening leave and stuff like that, right? So I thought, let me just do something, otherwise I'll regret it, because I always was interested in it. Obviously, like I think all of us, we watch it and then we're like, you know what, I could probably write some jokes, like not as good as the best people, but as good. You know, see some people on TV, and you're like, yeah, I could write stuff like that's similar, you know. And then I decided to do it, and then I thought, and then I just started going on Facebook. I didn't have any social media at this point, by the way, so I was always like quite anti-social media. And then I thought, let me just create. So I created Facebook, I created Instagram, and then I just started applying for places. And I tell you what, I remember my first ever show was on Remembrance Sunday, right? And then I did like I did like 5 minutes of just taking the piss out of Remembrance Sunday, and it did not go well. So it was like in a pub in Croydon, especially because I'm a brown guy. You know, they don't want to. They don't want to hear a brown guy making fun of that. So, but then I went back same place next week, and I did a different thing, and it went well. And then I did like other stuff, and then I think shortly after I probably saw you at one of the shows. But yeah, it's pretty good. Like I think I think we've got like quite a similar comedic style. I think I'm definitely, I like edgier humor, so I definitely do edgier, and I can get away with it because I'm a brown guy, right? You can get away with more stuff. But I'm trying to do more. Like I'm just trying not to rely on that too much. You see, like we all see like comedians who. I don't want to be like one that's like relying on saying vulgar stuff or just swearing, and then like it just has to be like funny without that too, you know. And yeah, so I'm doing a lot more of that sort of stuff. I don't know if your materials evolved since, because you've been doing it much longer than I have, but have you found something similar?
Well, I think because I've done it for what, 2.5 years. What I found is that I definitely like found my persona. I also feel like I don't want to rely. I had for a long period of time when I wasn't swearing on stage.
Oh wow, yeah.
I was trying it, and then now I got to the point where I might just like have like a swear word out, but I don't want that to be the punchline. I don't want that to be like, you know, I agree with you, because I think I get to the point where also I found now that I love storytelling, and I love like, creating a story and putting like hooks in between, and that's my style. Like if anything, now I've realized, because I do have some like one-liners, not one-liners, but like shorter jokes, which I don't enjoy that much doing, because I'm like, it's not what I like.
Yeah,
you know, like I feel like this is my best material.
Yeah, yeah, so similar for me as well.
And it's definitely, it's a learning curve, you know. And I get to the point where now, and I get to the point, I'm still at the point where, like, you know, I appreciate who I am, and I understand who I am, and I'm like, you know, because you always, like, I agree, you always see or like you see comedians that, although look, I love and I appreciate any comedian that's like, you know, trying, you know, because it's hard work. And I appreciate that everyone's different. It's kind of like, you know, do I feel good about what I'm about to say? Like, is this not necessarily feel good, but is this like who I want to be? Because I always, like, now I think about sometimes as well, is like, if someone just like goes past the room that I'm in, and they only hear one of my jokes, you know, like, because they're just like passing by, I want to have that joke as being like, it stands for like what I do as a whole set. So this is a bit, which is a bit difficult though, because like you again like now I have to rethink about like how I do my intro, because I do the map thing a lot, and then but that's quite again. It's although I love it, it's a good joke. It's one of the first ones I've ever written. It's an analogy that literally my dad taught me, so it's very close to my heart. But then I'm like, it's I don't know if it's for me. I don't know if it's my style. I feel like at some point I'll put it on, but I don't necessarily want to start with it.
It's the same with me. I think I start with the terrorism one, right? That's but I was like, I hate doing that because even when I tell people, when I tell like my family or friends, they're like, yeah, but you need to get away from that. That's too, that's. And then I was like, and some of them they go, isn't that kind of old, like terrorism and stuff? I say not really, because the first 10 years you can't really joke about it, right? So it's only like those jokes are actually quite new. I mean, the events are really old, but anyway. But now, only recently, I've been able to come up with something that is funnier and not. So then I can not, and also like sometimes we forget we're constrained by 5 minutes. So when you start, you're always doing 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you've got to squeeze in. It's only now we're doing like longer, like 10 minutes or whatever, or sometimes 20, that we can do a nice, like long. You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself to say something that's a bit spicy, and getting laughs and stuff.
And I also found that this is usually because I'm looking now at like some of the 10s that I've done for semi-pro comedy bills, and I've noticed that it usually takes me about a minute and a half to get into to make people get on board, and then it goes really well. I'm not like saying that because it's me, but it genuinely is like because that's when people kind of like get it, and I feel like this is the downside. I get not the downside, but this is just the way it is as a storyteller. Like I do need more time. I feel like when I go and do like a 5 minute to try something new, I'll just go and try that idea. But then now I do need longer spots, and like I'm looking for longer spots totally for the fact that I need time to settle. Barry and I settle like the grounds for work, and then people are like, okay, I get it. While in the 5 minutes, again, think about it this way: you have 1.5 minutes from the 5. That's 3.5 minutes left where you have to say jokes and count for some laughter.
Yeah. You can't really do any crowd work either. You can't really engage with the crowd at all. Like as soon as the crowd replied, that's it. We've wasted like so much of your.
Well, now I actually think because I see myself as more like I'm an entertainer. I'm there to entertain the crowd. I'm there to like do whatever, like because ultimately they are people who either paid, or even if they didn't pay. It's what was the word? They've
taken their time.
Wasted they spend their time. Which is so valuable, which is like so appreciated, that I want them to feel like they are a part of my. So that's why I sometimes go like, oh, what do you think about this? Or I will try in one way to. Although I already have my stories, I already know what I'm going to do. I'm still trying to get them to make them feel like they are involved, and obviously they are like a big part of my set because they are. It's for the people. I'm like a communist president.
Yeah, and it's also like that's one of the reasons you go to watch. Like if you don't, that's one of the features, right? You can interact with the comedian. They can say stuff to you. That's one of the reasons people go and watch it, rather than you can just watch it at home on Netflix, right? I've started doing MCing recently, so hosting my own show and stuff. And one way I've been practicing is I just go to 5-minute spots and I just don't have any material. And then maybe I'll do. So I always say at the beginning, I'm going to do one joke, and then like when I get the light, that's when I do my joke. Before that, I just talk to the crowd and like try and. I think it's good practice. It's very good practice. So my objective over the next like few months is to do a gong show and pass the gong without any pre-written material. That's like extra hard. I don't know what you think about
that. Yeah, I think. What? Try it, because that's the thing. If it works, and if you get through, that's gonna be a brilliant video to use as advertising after.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just crowd work. You don't have to worry about, oh my god, I'm gonna put this joke in a wild and then I can't use it. Although I never think like that, because I'm like, I mean, look, I got to the point where luckily I have a few thousand people like watching my content, Rahman, but it's still not enough for me to go like, oh no, what if they hear my north of Romania joke? Never be able to do it again.
And they laugh. Sometimes they laugh even more because if they have seen it, you know, they've come to see that, they want to hear. It's always like funny. I've never seen someone been like, "Oh no, that's not funny anymore." You know? So
yeah, it's usually like, okay, because I think as comedians as well, we're like, oh, we preempt it. We're like, oh yeah, I've heard this, but although, because look, I've told you before, like you have one of my favorite jokes, at least in the London circuit. If I like, or at least like in the circuit that I'm like around as a
yeah,
comedian. You know, and I love it. Like every time you say it, I'm so up for it. And I think and it happens with other comedians where I bump into someone at the comedy show, and like one of my mates from Manchester, Sammy. Every time I see him, I'm like, please do the because he has a joke, very good joke. Like, please, would you mind doing the joke, please? And sometimes even if it doesn't go well, I'm the only one who laughs because I love the way that joke was written. I love, and like even again your idea and your joke, and because of the way you deliver it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
Wait, which one? I don't know.
The one with how do you make someone sweat?
Oh yeah.
That is my favorite.
Yeah.
I said someone because I don't want to like spoil it.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite jokes because of the way you kind of like you bring it all the way there, and then you're like, oh, do you know how to make so and so sweat? And I'm like,
yeah, but one thing I like about you, and it's similar with other comedians who are immigrant, it's so you've been in the UK long enough that like immigrants get a lot of hate, right, and like a lot of attacks, stuff like this. But this is a good way, like a good platform for you to be able to like say stuff back, you know, like not in a harsh, not in a harsh way. But I think I always find it really funny because usually it's just one-way traffic. Like you never hear the others. Like you just hear people complaining about immigrants. But then sometimes you're on stage and you hear like 20 minutes of someone from Romania, someone from Bulgaria, just like taking the piss out of UK culture, and it's actually really funny, you know. So yeah, that's one thing I like.
And I also think that's a nice thing about the audiences in England, you know, where they're like, you know what, it's kind of to the point where I feel like, look, there are still like borderline stuff, you know, where you gotta be like, okay, this is too much. And I agree. I think some comedians, you know, use the excuse, almost as an excuse. Oh, I'm foreigner, I can shit on like, but like I feel everyone comments on English food. You know, like it's not new. It's because I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about, oh, you know, you want to find your own persona and like your own, like whatever applies to you. That's how I write now, where I'm like, you know what, the way I write is that okay, so Romania is like this, or like London, it stinks of piss, but this is why that's why it matters to me. Like that's what I'm trying to actually hit with my joke. I'm not just going to be like fish and chips, so bland. You know what? I fucking love fish and chips.
Yeah, I have a joke which is like my parents, they say we have to try and be more English, you know, to be more like a white family. And the punchline is, so I put them in a care home and I stopped talking to them, right? But
that's amazing.
But English people, they love this joke. They'd laugh harder than. Now you think like some of them will get offended, but they love it. They think it's great. So
no, because again, it's a strong observation, and although again, I think it's probably like most, like I feel like Western values as well, you know, because like because in Romania that's like unspoken for, you know, to like, which again, look, I'm not saying is right or wrong. I'm not here to be the decider of how like things are happening, but I do know that it's a much more like westernized thing where, you know, you have people in care houses or like care homes.
But it might just be like developed country things, like maybe as the other Asian countries get richer, as Romania gets richer, maybe they'll end up doing the same thing.
Well, let's hope. Let's pray.
Pray for care homes. Pray for care homes.
Yeah, pray for care homes. That's how.
It's just the thing is though, if all the Asian countries become rich, like where are you going to get the staff? Like where are they?
Oh my god!
It's like just AI robots.
It could be. You just have like ChatGPT looking after the care facility, you know?
Like, yeah, when is my next nappy change? ChatGPT. They're like, sorry, my latest data is from 2021. I can't. You have to upgrade.
Yeah, would you like the pro version or the plus?
Oh god, yeah. But anyway, that's yeah. But I think like the UK crowds are really good. Like they can laugh at themselves, which helps.
Yeah, I think the self-deprecation in here it's strong. While I feel like, and again, it's without having done a single minute of comedy in America, but I feel like from that, I feel like the sense of humor there, like at least the way comedians come across is like if you take the piss out of yourself, you're getting really far. Not really far, but it's one way to get far. While I feel like in here, the observations are appreciated, although they are sometimes like, this is a bit weird. Like I have a bit the bit about like how like I lived in England in London for 2 years, and I'm like, why do people still are so surprised about the noise that the tube makes? As if like just started.
Yeah, that's yeah, but you're right. It's like in America, I think, especially if you don't have an American accent, I think they don't really want you to criticize as much. I think. I compared to UK anyway, I think it's a bit unless if you're like somewhere super lib, like if you're in New York City, maybe it's okay. But
it's strange though, because look, actually, I was at I tried to do the blackout again a couple of weeks ago, and when I started, I went on to the London bit. I got people were like, no.
Oh, really?
London like this, and I was like, okay, I'm really sorry for.
Oh no!
It was because it was like election week. Everyone was just like.
But it's fun though. But it's funny because when I do like slightly racist against my own people, English people they hate it, but Asian people, brown people, they love it. So it's like people are getting offended on behalf of, but the people themselves, they actually find it funny.
I feel like this is such a standard thing where, because I think again it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the interview about where people go, oh, be proud of your name, this is your name, you say it. Like, why? Like, look, if I stopped caring, why do you care for me? I'm done. It's not that I don't hate people for saying it's wrong. I genuinely couldn't care less.
Yeah, I think they've wasted their time on their diversity course that they went
to. Yeah, but I do love the fact that I tried this thing where I was like, during like Black History Month, I had this guy who came in work to like teach us, about like Black history, and then during like the Woman History Month, the same guy came to teach us about woman history, and now through like the Pride Month, it's probably going to be the exact same guy.
Still getting paid, but yeah. So, but I think it's. But the thing is, it wasn't that long ago. Like in the 90s when I grew up, like there was a lot of like, and obviously when my parents were here, it was the complete opposite, right? So I think there's a lot of like the people who are like saying all this stuff, getting offended on behalf of us. I include myself because I'm a minority. Their parents were like, go back to where you came from, So I think they're kind of like trying to not be like their parents or whatever. So maybe that's part of it.
Well, but this is, I don't know what's your, because actually I'm quite curious, like what's your take on this? Because I always feel like, I sometimes want to tell people that like it's not your fault. Because I've been discriminated, discriminated, is that the word?
Discriminated, yeah.
Discriminated on in the past, but I don't know. I just feel like I actually sometimes I look at people and I'm a bit sad about how, personal they take, again, whether like their neighbors, their parents, or even I don't know themselves when they were younger. I'm like, look, it's fine. Again, if you learn the lesson, I think it's one of those things where like you learn that something was wrong, accept that it was wrong, try to don't allow it to happen again. But that's it. We can't just live based on the fact that, because I had a bit where I was saying that, in Romania, I've never seen racism because there was only one.
Just white people.
Yeah, because, technically, this is the thing. Like, yeah, we are white. However, we were still discriminated when we go to other places.
Yeah, but one thing I'm impressed by my parents, like my mom and dad, because they, like Bangladesh, where they grew up, there's no black people, there's no white people. And then they were still not racist, Like my dad, he was telling me a story about when he went to watch the boxing, and it was like Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, or someone like that, right? And they obviously it's a poor country, right? So they had to walk like a long while to look at a tiny, like mobile phone sized TV screen, you know, and then they were all really into it. When he came to Bangladesh, they were all like cheering for him. He's a black guy, you know, so it shows that. I think also there's like stories from like thousands of years ago where people, like some rich African guy came to Europe, everyone was like fawning over him. So it seems like it's not the default, you know, like there can be societies and we're just assuming that racism is just a backwards thing, but actually there's places that are really poor, people are uneducated, and even they're not racist.
And I don't know if it's, I mean, look, although again, I'm not necessarily a fan of, but I do like this thing from, I think, I'm not necessarily a fan of the David Badial. I feel like some of the things that he goes to are a bit far, but he had a thing about how, you know, the idea of like any sort of hatred is kind of like where, you know, you're doing well and then someone else is like either taking over or like coming as close as you, and that's when you try to cut them down. Where I see that point where I'm like, because again, I personally think like from seeing like I guess, look, I'm trying to footballers in Romania. You know, we had loads of football. Look, there were some who who have been racially abused at football games, right? However, most of them, like most of the players I remember, like growing up, they were so loved because again, there wasn't this idea of like, oh, we're here, you're here. It was kind of like, oh, he's coming in. Perfect. That's fine. Well, I feel like this is where I feel like, yeah, that's where, again, that's the one thing that I agree with David Badial, where he goes like, that's, I think, where hatred started, whereas like you want people to do well, but you don't want them to do as well as you.
Yeah, or like we're being replaced, or we're being displaced our communities or something like this. Yeah.
So I think that's the thing with like Muhammad Ali, like undeniably, like he's one of the greatest boxing, like boxing man.
Yeah,
he's already the best. Probably at the time he was the best at his job.
Yeah,
you have nothing like to gain from, you know, hating on him it's like, I don't know. It's really, I find it interesting. I don't know. It's a bit, it's a bit strange.
But I think I think like when we look back in like 30 years, we realize it's a bit of a weird time we live in because it's a bit more racism than there was a few years ago. Like
I think it's easier to expose it now.
Yeah, and also I think social media is like making us more polarized, maybe.
Yeah, because I always think of, like, my dad had this analogy which I love, where like back in the day, if your neighbor was crazy, it was only you and the other neighbors that knew that your neighbor is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, while now everyone has access to know that your neighbor is crazy.
Yeah, now it's like people fight. Now people also, it triggers, like now there's people fighting in the street because they know they're going to get famous on.
Well, that's another thing. Like the clickbaiting it's a lot, and also like, look, it's always this sort of you know, like, look, I've seen it, for example, even like this past weekend where, you know, you get like I think is it far right, you know, like for example, it was the whole thing like with Tommy Robbins, you know, coming to like marching in London. Although, look, even though there are all sorts of like things happening, however, like the one with Tommy Robbins, I was like, let's not forget that he is racist. Like, okay, fine, he's you know, he doesn't, or allegedly, or it doesn't look like he hates Jews, but he does hate other people, and like there is a pattern.
Yeah,
you know. So I'm like, let's not forget the main goal as a society is not to stop hating certain people, is to stop hating, period.
Yeah, exactly. Because the people who are like, oh, we don't hate Jewish people. Yeah, it's partly because there's other people now that are priority, you know? Like, they're like, yeah, once we've got rid of these 1 million brown people, then we're going to go back to... it's just... Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, it's like now there's more. There's like, oh wait, there's these new people. We got to prioritize them, and then we'll go back to the Jewish people there.
I feel like it's all this thing about, like, you know, when it would be the case of like, okay, cool, like this is let's focus on this, and then once this is done, we're moving to this and this, and then like no, like, you don't forget, like I don't know, it's to me that's where it sounds silly, and that's where it's like, I feel like I'd like to think that I believe, and I'm in a such an I see things in such a way where, like, two things can be right in the same time. Two
Yeah, yeah,
things,
definitely.
things can be right and wrong.
Mm.
But the polarization where you go like, oh, I think it's one of those things where, like, oh, Andrew Tate is right. No, but, like, again, because the thing is, a broken clock, it rises twice a day.
Yeah, but it's like his stuff, the more moderate stuff, like if you're like the stuff that is not overtly misogynist, right? So the stuff that is like being masculine, there's nothing wrong with that. It's good to go to the gym and lift weights or whatever. Fighting, it's not just violence. It's good for your. I'm guessing. I don't watch all this Andrew Tate stuff. I'm guessing. Let me just bring out my internet history. Let me just look at my favorite videos on YouTube now. But I'm saying it, and then eventually, you know how the algorithm works, and then if you're getting pushed into his more extreme content, and it's like boiling a frog, like eventually you're like, wait, if he's right about all these other things, maybe like the reason maybe the reason I'm single, maybe all this sort of stuff. And also now he's in Romania in prison or something. I don't know what's going on with him.
No, I think it's house arrest. He's still in house.
But I think also this sort of stuff is new. Like this level of like teachers are saying, like young boys are saying, like 13-year-old, 14-year-old are quoting Andrew Tate. This wasn't the case 10 years ago, So the algorithm is really messing. And I think it's like even like people who are philosophers, they're moving into like university lecturers making YouTube. They're realizing if I push more extreme content, I'm going to get more views. So you're seeing like even like Jordan Peterson, for example, who was like pretty moderate before. He's now pushing more extreme content because he's getting more like. Obviously, I know some people might support him here, but like he's getting more subscribers on Patreon or whatever if he pushes more of this like Andrew Tate type content, So,
yeah, I still, this is the thing. I remember when I actually, like, his book was one of the first books I've read in English.
Yeah,
I was kind of like, you know what? Okay, yeah, like I get some of the stuff, but I agree with you. I feel like that's where you're like, I don't know. Like, look, I get it. Because ultimately, it's about, like, I guess it's a business. You gotta see everyone. I always look at things now where it's like, no, probably someone has an interest of some sort in this. Like someone wants or so. But again, and it's not in like a conspiracy way sort of thing. Because I think if you were to watch my YouTube history, you'll probably think that I love, like, I believe every conspiracy theory just because I watch them, because I find them hilarious. Like I've watched almost every Trump rally. Because I find it like
it's funny.
There is a point where he starts singing,
really?
Or like he does this thing where he goes like beep 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 bop.
Oh god!
And for that alone, I'm like, you know what? That's great background noise.
Yeah. It's a bit like there's a cult. What's it? Not the cult, really. The yoga guy, the hot yoga guy, Bikram yoga. He does. He turns out to be like a like a rapist or whatever. But he used to do that as well. He used to sing in his. Eventually, he used to start singing in his yoga sessions.
Oh no! But I feel like he tries to say something, and then he goes like, Iowa. I love Iowa. I love Iowa.
There's a really good comedian called Fahim Anwar. He's an American comedian, and he goes, Donald Trump is a crowd work comedian. Like he just finds out what the crowd likes, and then that's his policy. He's just like that. He's like, build the wall, build the wall. Yeah, we're going to build a wall. That's getting cheers. We're going to build the wall. That's how he makes U.S. policy. Basically, that's how he does it.
I think about like when you do is this Scrabble?
Yeah, Scrabble. Yeah.
No, the picture.
I don't know what it's called. Yeah, the one.
Yeah, we have to like
charades.
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 Yeah, I feel like that's probably his style. Where he's like, yeah, wall, the wall. Like hate foreigners.
But so it works. Like I mean, like when the COVID stuff happened, they said face, hands, space, or whatever. 3 were like this sort of stupid stuff. Like people, even though I build a wall, like you can easily bypass that, right? Like this isn't like even like 1,000 years ago that wouldn't have worked, right? People would know how to get like, but but it just sounds like. And then if you ask people, they'd be like, yeah, even if it gives us an idea of what his intentions are, right? It's just like whatever. It's silly.
Yeah, he seems all right.
He might be the president again, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows though? That's the thing. It's man, it's a wild place. We live in. I think, but yeah, no. Look, comes back to the point earlier where, I think it's a fine line. Like what do and again, like look, you can I always find that you can listen to whatever, but then you only take. I think it was like the Bruce Lee quote, where you have to like to in order to educate yourself, you have to have and read as much as possible and do as much as possible, but only take what's what makes sense for like or what's valuable to you. You don't if you read a book, you don't have to quote the whole book.
Yeah.
One line in a book that you agree with, that's perfect. Anyway, I wanted to ask you now, because I appreciate the time that you took, for this, and we chatted for almost an hour and a half, which is wild. And I feel like we had so much more to talk about.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get you on again, by the way, and we'll chat about it. Anyway, now, where do people find you? What's the name of your night? I mean, at the moment, I know it's only running in central London.
Yeah. So we have a show. Yeah, so we've got a show called Halal Fried Comics. I started it at I think like a few months ago, but we've been very successful. We sold out all of our shows. We had our headliner last a couple of weeks ago. It's Fatiha Al Ghori, who's like really famous. She's been on Jonathan Ross. She's been on Russell Howard, Comedy Central. So yeah, it's a surprisingly successful night. We're in a hotel in Piccadilly Circus. We have about 120 seats, something like that. The joke. I MC it, so I'm still fairly new to MCing, but we have some of the best up and coming talent in the country. Actually, I'm my Instagram handle stand up Saf if anyone wants to follow. And that's it. I'm not doing Edinburgh or anything this year, but let's see how things go. Let's do some gong shows. Let's So I do lots of open stuff and I do lots of paid stuff as well. And so yeah, but I post up on my Instagram whatever I'm doing. So that's cool.
Amazing. Well, thank you for taking the time.
No, thank you. Yeah, it sounds really good. And it was really interesting hearing your stories, by the way.
Thank you. No, and I feel like I mean, there was no script beforehand, but then while we started talking, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. And it's a lot. That's the thing. I feel like there is a lot to talk about still.
So yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. But anything else you want to say before we?
No, I think that's it. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'll hopefully see you at some point.
Well, you too. Good luck with the night. It sounds amazing, and I've seen the lineups from the previous nights, and strong, very strong.
Thank you. Yeah, all right, and I'll see you at Speak in the future, hopefully.
At where?
So, like on one of your future podcasts, we'll see.
Oh yeah, I will. Cool. See you later.
All right. Cool. See ya. Bye.
Hey, so was it what you hoped for? I hope so, because look, I think it was. I had a great time recording, and Safwaan is just such a nice. He's such a lovely person. He's such a nice person, and I think he's a great comedian. I really enjoy his writing and his performances as well. Although again, he's been around for a while, but sorry, he's not been around for a while or like for that long, but he just seems like I hope he's gonna do really well. I hope I'll do well as well, if if I may say. But what else? Yeah, and it was just, I think it was incredible to get to understand, his perspectives as a new parent as well. I think that's so exciting and that's so beautiful, and to I just enjoyed chatting with him. So once again, you'll hear from me on Thursday with another episode. And until then, you know the drill. Stay skillful. From me, Sarma, and Pico, goodbye.